Chapter 5. The first decision. Life on planet Vegeta settled into a steady rhythm. Days blurred into weeks. Weeks quietly slipped into months. The capital remained as loud and alive as ever. Military transports thundered overhead from dawn until nightfall. Saiyan warriors returned from distant campaigns carrying fresh scars and tales of conquered worlds. The massive meat markets never closed, filled with enormous carcasses hauled in by hunting squads from the planet's untamed wilderness. Planet Vegeta was rich with colossal wildlife. Towering horned mammals, scaled reptiles the size of small buildings, pack-hunting predators capable of crushing armored vehicles beneath their jaws. The harsh ecosystem suited the Saiyans perfectly. After all, a race that loved battle also loved hunting. Inside the modest mid-class home, I sat cross-legged on the living room floor. Both hands gripped an absurdly large slab of roasted meat. Compared to my little body, the thing was practically bigger than I was. I still can't believe this is considered a normal meal. The meat came from one of Planet Vegeta's giant reptilian beasts. Its thick scales had been removed before cooking, leaving behind rich crimson flesh that smelled incredible. Back on Earth, I'd probably need an entire family gathering just to finish something this size. Now, I took another bite. Crunch. Juices filled my mouth. Okay, I understand now. Saiyans really do have excellent taste. The meat was surprisingly tender despite coming from what had apparently been an apex predator. A pleasant smoky flavor lingered after every bite. My stomach felt like a bottomless pit. No matter how much I ate, I always wanted more. Saiyan biology was terrifying. I wasn't even training yet, and my appetite kept growing. Across the table, Millie quietly watched me. She smiled faintly. You certainly inherited your father's appetite. I looked up briefly. Dad again. Even though I'd never met Broga, his presence lingered throughout the house. His armor remained carefully preserved. His old training gloves rested inside a storage cabinet. A large photograph stood on a nearby shelf. Towering muscles, dark skin, a confident grin, even frozen in a photograph. He looked like someone who feared absolutely nothing. Sometimes, I'd catch my mother staring at that picture. Always silently, always when she thought no one was looking. Later that afternoon, after spending nearly the entire day running laps around the house, climbing furniture, and generally pretending to be an energetic toddler, I collapsed onto the couch. Mission accomplished. Time for my tactical nap. Within minutes, I was asleep. Millie stood nearby cleaning her armor. She paused. Her eyes drifted toward her sleeping son. Quote. You've been growing quickly. She reached toward the nearby table. Her old scouter rested there. Click. The familiar green lens slid over her left eye. She hesitated. Quote. Let's see. A quiet electronic hum filled the room. The scouter focused on the sleeping child. Numbers rapidly climbed. Battle power, 230. The reading stabilized. Millie's eyes widened. Quote. 230. She looked again. The number didn't change. Quote. Impossible. Most Saiyan children only reached such levels after beginning structured combat training. Mello hadn't received any. He played, he ate, he slept. That should have been all. Yet, his battle power continued increasing steadily month after month. No sudden spikes, no unusual fluctuations, just constant growth, healthy growth, natural growth. Millie slowly removed her scouter. A small smile formed. Quote. You're just like him. Her gaze drifted toward the framed photograph. Broga, even as a child, he had grown stronger unusually quickly. The instructors had reportedly struggled to explain it. His body simply adapted faster than expected. Exactly like Mello. Millie quietly walked over to the photograph. Her fingers brushed against the frame. You would have been proud. He has your eyes. Quote. And perhaps your talent. For a long moment, she simply stood there, remembering the loud laughter, the impossible appetite, the endless confidence. Broga had always believed strength existed to protect one's family, not simply to conquer weaker worlds. An uncommon belief among Saiyans. One she secretly admired. Millie looked back toward her sleeping son. His chest rose and fell peacefully. Still so small, still innocent. Quote. You're almost 3. She spoke softly. It won't be long before the other children begin learning. A thoughtful silence settled over the room. Saiyan children weren't raised gently. By the age of 3 or 4, most had already begun basic combat drills. By 5, many could throw proper punches. Some were already sent on low-risk missions. Harsh by Earth standards, normal by Saiyan ones. Millie folded her arms. Quote. No, I won't let others teach you first. A quiet determination entered her voice. If you're growing this quickly, then I need to make sure your foundation is solid. She glanced once more toward the sleeping toddler. Quote. Your father isn't here, so that responsibility falls to me. Outside, the evening sun slowly dipped below planet Vegeta's rugged horizon. Golden light streamed through the windows. Inside, Millie smiled to herself. It seems, it's finally time. Tomorrow, I'll begin training you. Still pretending to sleep, I nearly stopped breathing. Wait, tomorrow, already, my heart skipped a beat. For years, I'd patiently hidden my knowledge, patiently strengthened my senses, patiently waited for my body to mature. Now, the waiting was over. A thrill of excitement surged through me. My first real Saiyan training. It's finally about to begin. I resisted every urge to smile. Instead, I continued lying perfectly still. The image of a peacefully sleeping child. While inside, a former human from Earth grinned like an idiot. Let's begin. Chapter 6. First Steps. Planet Vargos, Outer Hunting Region. Rika's perspective. This is what I've dreamed about ever since I was old enough to understand what Saiyans were. My own mission. No parents, no instructors, no older warriors constantly telling me what to do. Just me. I couldn't stop grinning as I stood on top of a massive stone cliff overlooking an endless green jungle. Ha ha ha, so this is another planet. The air smelled different, sweeter, warmer. The trees were enormous, easily taller than the buildings back home on planet Vegeta. Brightly colored birds flew overhead. Some had wingspans wider than transport vehicles. Even the insects looked dangerous. Perfect. I rolled my shoulders before checking my scouter. Everything was functioning normally. Battle power, 350. Not bad. Actually, really good for my age. No wonder Command had finally approved my first solo mission. The world beneath me wasn't especially advanced. There were cities, primitive energy weapons, small aircraft. Nothing that could threaten experienced Saiyan warriors. Still, the natives weren't weak. My scouter continued chirping. 217, 243, 281, 198. I smiled. Oh ho, finally, they're actually strong enough to fight back. Most of the stronger readings were spread across the continent. Good, that meant I wouldn't have to fight everyone at once. More fun that way. I crouched slightly, then launched myself forward. Boom. The cliff shattered beneath my feet. Wind exploded around me as I rocketed across the jungle canopy. God, flying never got old. The green forest blurred beneath me. Rivers sparkled like silver snakes winding through the wilderness. Massive animals scattered as I passed overhead. Then, there, a village. The inhabitants immediately noticed me. They looked vaguely humanoid. Gray skin, 4 arms, each carried primitive-looking energy rifles. One pointed toward the sky. Intruder. The others immediately took defensive positions. Good. No pointless speeches. Straight to fighting. Just the way I liked it. I landed in the middle of their village square. Dust billowed around my boots. The warriors surrounded me cautiously. One stepped forward, judging by my scouter. 278. Probably their strongest. He raised his weapon. I smiled. So, who's first? 20 minutes later. Ha ha ha. I wiped a small streak of blood from my cheek. Mine, not theirs. Finally, someone had actually managed to hit me. Granted, only once. But still, that was more exciting than training dummies back home. Around me, several warriors slowly climbed back to their feet. Bruised, exhausted, still glaring defiantly. I like that. Weak, but brave. Honestly, they reminded me a little of. Quote. Mellow. I blinked. Quote. Quote. He'd probably laugh if he saw me now. Or, well, maybe not laugh. He always had that weird little serious face. Especially whenever I messed with his tail. He. I couldn't help chuckling. I can't wait to tell him. My first mission. I even got punched. Quote. Well, more like lightly tapped. Still counted. I folded my arms proudly. I bet he'll be jealous. The image of his grumpy little face instantly appeared in my mind. That made me laugh even harder. He'll definitely make that face again. Planet Vegeta. The following morning. A cold wind swept across the rocky wastelands outside the capital. Jagged black mountains stretched toward the horizon. The ground was dry and cracked from countless years of harsh weather. It was the perfect place for Saiyan training. Mello's perspective I swallowed. This felt different. For years I'd waited, planned, prepared. Now, the day had finally arrived. Mom stood several meters away from me, already wearing full battle armor. Her black hair danced gently in the wind. Unlike home, her expression had completely changed. No warmth, no gentle smiles, only calm focus. She folded her arms. Mello. I looked up. Yes, today, you stop being treated like a baby. My heartbeat quickened. You're still young, far too young for true combat. But your body has grown enough. So I'll begin teaching you the basics. I nodded eagerly. Inside, I was practically screaming. Finally, Millie pointed toward the open sky. First lesson, flying. I blinked. Already, she nodded. Saiyans are born with ki. Flying is merely learning to trust your body. She crouched slightly, without any dramatic movements. She simply rose. Light gravity had forgotten she existed. My eyes widened despite already knowing Saiyans could fly. Seeing it in real life was completely different. She floated effortlessly several meters above the ground. So cool, I accidentally whispered aloud. Millie smiled faintly. It is. She slowly descended. Now, your turn. I looked at the ground. Then at my feet. Right, how exactly? The knowledge from my second wish stirred within my mind. Ki. Feel it. Guide it. Don't force it. I closed my eyes. Immediately, the familiar warmth answered. Good. Now, downward. Slowly. Carefully. Nothing happened. I tried again. This time, a tiny push. Suddenly, my feet left the ground. Exclamation mark quote. Only a few centimeters, but I was floating. For exactly 1 second. Then gravity remembered I existed. Thud. I landed squarely on my backside. Ow. Mom nodded approvingly. Good. I looked up in surprise. That was good. You floated. Most children can't. Really? She nodded. Again. So I tried. Again. After almost an hour, I could remain airborne. 4, maybe 3 seconds. Progress. Painfully slow progress. But progress. Millie finally raised one hand. The next lesson. A tiny blue sphere formed above her fingertip. It barely glowed. Even I could tell she was suppressing it tremendously. If you can't dodge, you die. Before I could respond, whish. The tiny blast shot toward me. My instinct screamed. I barely stumbled sideways. The blast exploded harmlessly against a nearby boulder. Boom. The rock cracked apart. That was weak. Millie nodded calmly. Extremely. I suddenly understood. Even suppressed. A Saiyan's attacks weren't jokes. She fired another. Then another. Then another. I ducked. Rolled. Tripped. Nearly got blasted in the shoulder. Dodge. She wasn't angry. She wasn't shouting. She simply continued attacking. Methodically. Relentlessly. Every movement efficient. Every shot calculated. My breathing became ragged. She's reading me. Every time I chose a direction, the next blast appeared there. She wasn't aiming where I was. She was aiming where I'd panic. A teacher, not an executioner. Still, it hurt my pride. I couldn't keep up. Not even close. I thought I was doing well. Until she vanished. My instincts exploded. Behind. I barely turned before. Tap. Her palm gently touched my forehead. Dead. I froze. She was already standing behind me. I hadn't even seen her move. Again, she disappeared. This time I reacted faster. Still too slow. Tap. A finger touched the side of my neck. Dead. Again. Tap. Dead. Again. Tap. Dead. Again. Tap. Dead. Minutes stretched into hours. Sweat soaked my clothes. Every muscle burned. I managed to dodge perhaps one attack out of every 20. The rest ended with Mom's hand resting somewhere against my body. A strike that would have broken bones if she hadn't held back. Finally, I collapsed onto one knee, panting heavily. I can't. Millie looked down at me. Good. I blinked. Good. She nodded. For the first time today. You admitted your limits. She offered me her hand. That's where real strength begins. I stared at her for a long moment, then accepted it. As she helped me back to my feet, I realized something important. I had underestimated her. She wasn't merely kind. She wasn't merely my mother. She was a Saiyan warrior with years of real combat experience. And today, she had thoroughly humbled me. Strangely, that only made me more determined. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and took my stance once more. Again, for the first time that day. Millie's smile carried unmistakable pride. Without another word, the training resumed. Chapter 7. The Foundation Mellow's perspective. The next several weeks became the most exhausting and rewarding period of my new life. Every morning began before sunrise. Every evening ended with me collapsing into bed too tired to dream. Mom never went easy on me. Not once. If your opponent gives you time to rest, she said one morning, they're either a fool. She disappeared from in front of me, or they're setting a trap. A blur appeared behind me. This time, I reacted, almost instinctively. I twisted to the side. Her hand sliced through empty air where my neck had been only a heartbeat earlier. Instead of stopping, I rolled forward and put several meters between us. Millie's eyebrows lifted ever so slightly. Good. That single word was worth more to me than any praise. At first, my progress had been painfully slow. Flying lasted only a few seconds. My balance constantly failed. Landing usually ended with me tumbling face first into the dirt. Key control felt awkward, like trying to write with my non-dominant hand. But something inside me was changing. No, not changing, awakening. My ancient Saiyan body seemed to absorb physical lessons at an astonishing pace. Every successful dodge became easier to repeat. Every mistake became less likely to happen again. Muscle memory formed frighteningly quickly. The foundation granted by my second wish finally began revealing its true value. I didn't have to wonder what I was trying to do. I only had to teach my body how to do it. That difference saved me countless hours. Again, Mom fired another tiny ki blast. Instead of panicking, I calmly shifted my weight. The blue sphere rushed harmlessly past my shoulder. Boom! The cliff behind me exploded into fragments. Another followed immediately. I ducked. A third. I sidestepped. A fourth. I leapt into the air. For nearly 20 seconds, I remained airborne. Not gracefully, not elegantly, but steadily. I landed with only a slight stumble. Mom folded her arms. You're learning. I smiled despite my exhaustion. I think I'm finally getting the hang of it. She nodded. You are. There wasn't much emotion in her voice. But after weeks of training, I'd learned to read the subtle changes in her expression. She was impressed. She simply wasn't the type to gush over it. Flying became easier every day. At first I could barely lift myself. Now, I could circle the training grounds several times before tiring. My movements still lacked speed. I couldn't make sharp turns. And rapid acceleration often caused me to lose control. But I was flying. Actually flying. Every now and then, I'd catch myself laughing in the middle of the air. Not because I intended to. Just because some childish part of me still couldn't believe it. Back on Earth, humanity had dreamed about flight for thousands of years. Now, it felt as natural as running. Hand-to-hand combat remained much harder. Mom was relentless. She attacked without warning. Sometimes while we walked home. Sometimes while I was drinking water. Sometimes while I thought training had already ended. Her reasoning was brutally simple. The enemy doesn't announce themselves. Because of that, my awareness sharpened. I learned to trust instinct before thought. Whenever her key shifted, I moved. Whenever the air changed, I reacted. Whenever danger whispered, my body listened. One afternoon, we stood facing one another in the rocky wasteland. The wind carried dust between us. Mom slowly raised one finger. No warning. I narrowed my eyes. She vanished. My body moved before my mind did. I pivoted, raised my forearm. Tap. Her palm struck my guard instead of my face. She immediately threw a kick. I ducked. A backhand followed. I retreated. 3 more strikes. Blocked. Dodged. Avoided. Finally, she stopped. Silence filled the training ground. Millie looked at me for several seconds. You've mastered the basics. My breathing was heavy. Sweat dripped from my chin. Really? She nodded. You still lack experience. You still lack strength. And your instincts remain unrefined. She paused. But the fundamentals are becoming natural. Hearing those words sent a wave of satisfaction through me. It wasn't talent alone. It wasn't magic. It was the result of weeks of relentless practice. The beginning of a true martial foundation. As we prepared to continue, a sharp electronic chirp echoed from Millie's waist. Beep, beep, beep. She frowned. Quote. Logistics. She removed a compact military communicator from her belt. A holographic emblem of the Saiyan military appeared above it. An emotionless voice spoke. Warrior Millie, you are hereby reassigned. Report immediately to Assembly Platform 7. Mission classification. Planetary conquest support. Additional low-class personnel have already been mobilized. Departure window. 2 hours. The message ended. Millie stared silently at the now dark communicator. Quote. TCH. She clicked her tongue in annoyance. So much for finishing today's lesson. I looked up. You're leaving. She nodded. A troublesome planet. Apparently the local resistance has lasted longer than expected. They're sending reinforcements. I stayed quiet. This wasn't unusual. Saiyan warriors were constantly deployed. Still, something about hearing it firsthand felt different. She crouched in front of me. This mission shouldn't last long. Continue practicing while I'm away. She pointed toward my chest. The foundation is everything. If you neglect it, you'll build weakness into your future. I nodded seriously. I understand. She studied me for a moment. I know you do. That answer surprised me. She trusted me far more than most Saiyan parents seemed to trust their children. Perhaps she'd already noticed how unusually disciplined I was. She stood and adjusted her armor. Keep practicing your flight. Refine your dodging. And don't neglect your key sensing. My eyes widened slightly. You know I practice that. A faint smile crossed her face. I've noticed you sitting quietly with your eyes closed almost every day. I wasn't sure what you were doing. But your awareness has improved too quickly for it to be coincidence. So continue. My heart skipped a beat. She hadn't figured everything out. But she had recognized the results. Fortunately, instead of questioning them, she approved. Millie rested a hand briefly on my head. I'll return before you know it. Then, with practiced efficiency, she turned toward the city. Her figure quickly disappeared into the distance as she headed for the military assembly platform. I watched until she was no longer visible. The wasteland suddenly felt much quieter. A cool breeze swept across the rocky plain. For the first time since my training had begun, I was alone. I slowly looked down at my small hands, then clenched them into fists. No shortcuts, I murmured to myself. No miracles. If I want to survive what's coming, I'll earn that strength. With renewed determination, I floated back into the air. There was no instructor watching now. No praise waiting, only an empty wasteland, and the endless road toward becoming a warrior worthy of the Saiyan name.